3 months ago, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an awareness, a point of an awareness of a nationwide epidemic. Did you know that we have a nationwide epidemic? Let me tell you this, okay? So this epidemic actually increases the risk of heart disease by 29%. It increases the risk of strokes by 32%. It increases the risk of dementia by 50%. It increases the risk of premature death by over 60%. That's serious. You want to know what the epidemic is? It is the epidemic of loneliness, issued by the Surgeon General of the U.S. It was calling an awareness to the whole of the nation. We are a people who have never been more connected in social media ever than we are now. I mean, how many friends do you have on Facebook? Thousands? And yet we are the loneliest people ever. And boy, has that filtered into the church. We know people, we are acquainted with people, but we suffer from this epidemic of loneliness, isolation. And we start missing these opportunities with people. Now, many of you know the story of God and Moses. Moses sees this burning bush and he thinks, well, I wonder why it's burning, but it's not being consumed, so I'm going to go see what it's about. And so he goes up and he meets the great I Am. Now, keep in mind, who showed up first there? God did, the great I Am. He showed up first, and he showed up right in a place where he knew Moses was going to be coming by. And it says that Moses came and he took his shoes off and he hid his face because he thought, if I see the Lord face to face, I'm in trouble. And the Lord revealed himself as the great I Am. And he says in Exodus chapter 3, he says, I will be with you. I will be with you. Why is this so important? Because later in Exodus chapter 33, it says this. This is the report of Moses and God. They talk together face to face, as a friend talks to a friend. Moses went from someone who hid his face from God, although God showed up to him, hid his face, and he became one who would talk to God like a friend. Everybody say friend, like a friend, face to face. So what we're talking about today is what Proverbs addresses many times, is this idea of friendship, the wisdom of friendship. That QR code is actually going to take you to sermon notes if you want to follow along there. Faithfulness, I will be with you always, and face to face. Faithfulness and face to face. Everybody say it with me. Faithfulness and face to face. These are the two areas of friendship that kind of define or give definition to what it means to be a friend. So let me tell you a couple things, true things about friendship. Number one, as we look at God and Moses, number one truth about friendship is that you don't need to have anything in common except a passion for the Lord. When we're talking about the wisdom of friendship, biblical friendship, godly friendship, you don't need to have anything in common except your passion for the Lord. Right? How different are God and Moses? Very different. Everybody still with me? You're not tired this morning, are you? How different are God and Moses? Infinitely different. How many things do they have in common? Nothing really, other than a passion for the glory of God. God has a passion for His glory, and Moses has a passion for His glory, and that is the one common trait that they shared. Listen, you can have friends, meaningful, godly friends, on the basis of nothing else than that you share a passion for the glory of God. It doesn't matter what their age is. You know, somebody's like, well, that person's 40 years older than me. Can they be my friend? Yes. Or that person, that's a teenager. I don't talk to teenagers. I'm too old for teenagers. No, that teenager can be your friend or that child. Oh, we're not from the same country. We don't speak the same language. That person can be a friend because you share the same passion for the Lord. That's one truth. Second truth is this: your friendship is based on what you do, not on what the person does to you. Let me say it again. Your friendship is based on what you do to another, not on what they do to you. Remember, God shows up to Moses. Moses didn't deserve it. Moses did nothing to earn that friendship with God other than the fact that God pursued him. And we're going to see this again through this message. But this is what John chapter 15, verse 15. Wow, that's super dark, isn't it? Sorry about that. Can you read it? Let me read it for you. John 15:15 says this. This is Jesus. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. This is Jesus talking to his disciples. I love this. He says, no longer, I'm not calling you servants, I'm calling you friends. On the basis of what? On the basis of everything that Jesus did for them. Jesus did not look at the disciples and say, I'm calling you friend because you follow me. I'm calling you friend because you're going to stick it out with me through the heart. In fact, they don't. They leave Jesus when times get tough, right? He says, I'm calling you friend on this pure point because of what I am revealing to you. What I am giving to you, that's the reason I call you friend, not because of what you do for me. Everybody staying with me? This is big time, church. I want to kind of shake up our concept of friendship here because sometimes, I know in our world and in our culture, we kind of have this idea, surround yourself with people who are going to build you up. If they're tearing you down, get rid of them and get yourself around people who are going to build you up. The problem with that is that makes you the center of all things friendship. Right? And everybody's job around you is to build you up. But that means you are establishing friends on the basis of what they do to you, not what you do to them. Woo, my goodness. Now, is it wrong to get people who build you up? Of course not. But we need to start seeing this just slightly different. So, we're going to put faithfulness and face-to-face. Remember, those are the two aspects of friendship that we really want to keep highlighted here as we see in the relationship of God and Moses. We're going to put this on an axis, faithfulness going that way, face-to-face going up, and that creates a couple quadrants for us, what we're going to look at. So let me give you all the answers first, and then we're going to address them, okay? So we're going to look at the friend maker, the friend shaker, the friend breaker, and the friend faker. We're going to look at 4 different kinds of friends, not necessarily friends of what they're doing to you. Remember, I want you to take this message and go, what kind of friend am I? Not what are people doing to me, but what am I doing to people? I'll either be a friend maker, a friend shaker, a friend breaker, or a friend faker. All right, you ready? Whew. Maybe we should do a little more, like introduction. All right, let's begin then with friend maker. The friend maker. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves at all times. The friend maker is the person who is high on faithfulness and may not be as high on face-to-face. Now, that is not a bad thing, right? This is not a bad thing. Because if you've ever had a friend where you're like, I really don't know that person, but the way they treat me, when they see me, I feel encouraged and strengthened by them. There's not necessarily a lot of face-to-face time, but there is a lot of faithfulness. And when you know that about somebody, like, wow, that means something. A friend loves at all times. And a brother is born for adversity. That's not a negative thing. That just means your family has to put up with you no matter what. Right? You can't get away from family. If you've ever, you can try, but you're just kind of connected. And so there's fighting and things like that. But here's the difference. A friend chooses to stay with you. A friend loves at all times, even when things get hard. So let me make sure we understand this idea of love, because love in our day gets a little bit weird, right? Love includes forgiveness. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 9. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. Whoever seeks to cover an offense, that means whoever seeks to forgive, is pursuing love. But whoever repeats an offense, they're going to separate close friends. That word repeat means to say it one more time. If somebody offends you, if you have a friend that offends you, and rather than saying, I'm going to cover that, nope, I'm not going to hold an offense. Instead, we say, boy, that hurt me. I'm offended. I'm going to talk to somebody else about that, or I'm going to bring that up later. You see, that's not love. That's actually repeating an offense, which separates friends. So love includes forgiveness. All right, so it's forgiveness, but it's also service and sacrifice. Look, this is John. Oh, by the way, the mark of a friend maker is love. That is the mark of a friend maker. Love. It never fails. This is Jesus, John chapter 15, verse 13. Greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends. No greater love, you know this verse, than someone lays down their life. That is sacrifice. A friend loves at all times. John chapter 13, Jesus washes the disciples' feet, and he says, as I have loved you, so you love one another. That's the kind of love that serves. You see, if you are a friend maker, if you are high on faithfulness, even if you're not high on face-to-face, you are looking for opportunities to serve and to be sacrificial for the other person. Listen, even if they don't see you do it. Even when you're not face-to-face with them, they know that you are going to be faithful. You are not going to turn your back on them. You are going to be for their good and not for their harm. Amen? That is a friend maker. Sacrificial, serving, forgiving. I will not hold an offense. I'm not going to be offended. Say what you want. I will not be offended. Okay? That's a friend maker. Let's press on to a friend shaker. Everybody say friend shaker. This one is a person who is high in faithfulness and high face-to-face. Somebody that you are often encountering, or for you, who you are often encountering. Now listen, you don't slide back on faithfulness. You remain incredibly, still faithful, loving. But a friend shaker, Proverbs 27, verse 6, the beginning of it, faithful are the wounds of a friend. Many of you have heard that verse, but the emphasis is that it's marked by truth. It is a friend who cares enough to tell you the truth. Not their truth, but the truth of who God is. Remember, we're talking about the wisdom of friendship, and if we want to talk, as far as that goes, this, friends, if you want to talk about the wisdom of friendship, that's it. High in faithfulness, high face-to-face time. That is where friendship enters into deep wisdom. Because you are able to speak to one another truthfully. It's being honest. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 9 says, the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel, his passionate counsel. Listen to that. The sweetness of a friend comes from the earnest, passionate, fierce counsel. You see, a little bit of our trouble is we want to surround ourselves with friends who are going to build us up. But unfortunately, what that says in our mind is I want to have people who surround me who say the things that I want to hear. I want you to say nice things about me. I want you to tell me that I'm good and I'm right and nothing's wrong with me. And if you challenge me and if you start to cause me to feel uncomfortable, all of a sudden I turn on you and say, you tear me down. I don't want you anymore. And we actually give up on friend shakers when what we need is to embrace them because the wounds of a friend are faithful. We speak truth into each other's lives. So, Proverbs 27:17. Many of you know this. You've memorized it. As iron sharpens iron, so one person what? Sharpens another. Like iron sharpening iron. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's a lot of sparks. When iron sharpens iron, it's loud. It can be rough, but the outcome is that the person becomes sharper. One writer said it this way: our own family background left every one of us a little weird. So we need an honest friend from outside the tightly knit family to round us out. Every one of us needs to go to another person and say, help me see myself. Help me get sharper for Christ. Every one of us needs one, I would say two people, where you can go to them and say, help me see myself. That's scary. Right? Because when they start telling you the truth and things that you don't want to hear, that's hard. Because we naturally tend to see ourselves in a far better light than what oftentimes others might. So it's a friend shaker is somebody who is honest, somebody who has heart, someone who is willing to speak into your life. Listen, that is not, making me sure we're saying this, that does not mean that you have permission to be recklessly harsh to somebody. That doesn't mean that you become somebody who's like, I'm just going to share my opinion to everyone because I'm a friend shaker. I shake things up, right? And I'm going to tell you everything mean and everything harsh and all the things that you don't want to know about yourself. I'm telling you, listen, okay? To be a friend shaker, you first must be a friend maker. Many people, and I know in the Western world, we love it. Like, I speak my mind. I say whatever I want. Nobody's going to hold me back. Well, the problem is you can't be a friend shaker if you're not first a friend maker. If you are not a friend maker, if you're not sacrificial, if you're not serving, if you're not loving, if you're not forgiving, then don't try to speak into somebody else's life. Not at that level. Because they will not listen to you, nor should they, because you've not earned that right as friend. And the people who speak into your life should be friend makers to you as well. All right, that is a friend shaker. Let's press on then to the friend breaker. Now we are moving kind of into some bad things. Faithfulness, when faithfulness starts to drop off, there's some red flags there, friends. Right? Faithfulness is low, face-to-face is low. That is a friend breaker. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28, a dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. A friend breaker is marked by strife. Look, if you are coming to people and you are a gossip, you don't talk to them, you talk about them. And you have good things to say, but you say it to everyone else except for the person who actually needs to hear it. That is a friend breaker. It's somebody who is bringing strife. It also includes anger. Proverbs 22, verse 24 says, make no friendship with a man given to anger, nor go with a wrathful person. If somebody is by nature angry and wrathful, that is not the friend to pursue. Right? If somebody likes to sow discord, if they're gossips, they're whisperers, that's somebody who is a friend breaker. Listen to me, friends, right now. Listen. If you are talking about people, when they're not around in a way that brings them down, you have got to stop. You are being a friend breaker, right? That is low on faithfulness and low face-to-face time. It's not good. And we need to be aware of that. So we have the friend maker, friend shaker, friend breaker, and finally the friend faker. The friend faker. Proverbs 27, verse 6, faithful are the wounds of a friend. We just talked about that. And many are the kisses of an enemy. This is someone who has a lot of face time with you, but they're not faithful. Or for you, if you spend a lot of time with somebody, but you're not being faithful to them. Which, by the way, this includes spouses. If your spouse is not your friend, okay, let's mark that first. That should be the case. Your spouse should be your friend. Okay? But if there's a lot of face-to-face time and not much faithfulness, that is a friend faker. It's somebody who is pretending. It's the many profuse kisses of an enemy. So the word in Greek is for friend is philos. It's a friend of somebody who you love. But there's another word that gets translated friend, and it's not that word. It's heteros. Heteros. It's translated friend, but it doesn't mean a true friend. In fact, the idea is it's somebody who is in your camp, someone who is a comrade, but of another kind. It's somebody who pretends to be a friend, but really, truly is not. There are 3 times that this word gets used in the Bible. 3 times. All of them are recorded in the book of Matthew. So let me tell you where those are. First, Matthew chapter 20, verse 13. Jesus he's telling the parable. Remember when he has somebody come and he says, hey, you can work for me. I'm going to pay you 1 denarius. And then later on in the day, he brings on more and he says, I'm going to pay you 1 denarius. And later on, toward the end of the day, he brings on more and he says, I'm going to pay you 1 denarius. And so at the end of the day, they all come together and the owner gives them what he told them he would give them. And the guy who had worked from the beginning said, how is this possible? Why are they getting as much as I did? Right? You gave them what I wanted. And Jesus says, the owner tells him, friend, right? There it is, friend, am I doing you no wrong? Did you not agree with me for a denarius? See, what you've come to me, friend, is not for what is good for all, but what is good for you. So what is the marker of a friend faker is self-focus. It's what I can get out of you. Boy, listen, if you're looking at your friendships and you see your friends only for what you get out of it, that is friend faking. If it's purely on what you get, then that's not a genuine friendship. Yes, there might be a lot of face-to-face time. You might even have a lot of things in common. But if there's not faithfulness to the service and sacrificial kindness to the other, then it is friend faking. The second time Jesus uses this word is Matthew chapter 22, verse 12. He's telling another parable when people are coming for the wedding feast and one person gets in who doesn't have wedding clothes. If you remember that story, he snuck in, but he wasn't ready. He wasn't prepared. He shouldn't have been there. And so the owner or the owner of the home, the leader of the feast, says to him, friend, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? And if you know the rest of the story, they kick that person out. And Jesus is telling this story about the kingdom of heaven. This person tries to get in, not interested in doing what everyone else is doing, but gets in, and the owner says, friend, you should not be here. You're only focused on yourself. You're not focused on what should be taking place. Third time, Jesus uses this as in Matthew chapter 26, verse 50, when he says to Judas, friend, do what you came to do. I believe what Matthew is doing is building a case by using this word 3 times. First two times in parables, they talk about somebody who is a fake friend. They're not in it for the good of the other person. They're in it for the good of themselves. And leads up to the third time when Jesus refers to Judas. Friend? I'm going to pause here and I'm going to ask a question for each of us. What kind of friend are you to Jesus? Are you going to Jesus only for what He's going to give you? For how He can make your life better, how He can make it good, how He can bless you. Oh God, I just want you to bless me, bless me, bless me, bless me. Just bless me, bless my house, bless my family, bless my kids, bless my work, bless my finances, bless my day, bless my life. Oh God, if I'm sick, then make me better. All these things I want you to do for me, do for me, do for me. But God, I am not going to serve you. I don't want to be sacrificial to you. I don't want to be kind to others. I just want, you leave me alone. Let me do my thing, but your job is to bless me. And that is a friend faker. And I got to tell you, friends, that is an important question for us to ask ourselves. What kind of friend am I to Jesus? Is this all about what He can give me? Or am I looking at this saying, who am I to Him? Am I a friend maker to Him? I don't need to be a friend shaker with Jesus. He knows everything, right? I can tell Him about Himself, but it's all good. Right? Jesus, you're amazing, you're perfect, you're glorious. Right? That's truth to who He is. But who am I before the Lord? What kind of friend am I? So let's revisit it. Here are the four. Friend maker, friend shaker, a friend breaker, or a friend faker. Let me ask you, what kind of friend are you? Not what kind of friends do you have, but what kind of friend are you? Because friendship is established not on what other people do for you, but what you do for them. Here's some good news. Jesus is a friend to sinners. He hung out with tax collectors and prostitutes and the worst of the crowd. Jesus hung out with them. He spent time with them. He was face to face with them. He was faithful to them. He cared for them. He loved them. Oh yes, and He spoke truth to them. He did not skirt truths. He did not just tell them, oh, you're so nice and oh, you're so good and let's be friends. No, He actually told them, this is sin. Now go, sin no more. That's the kind of friend that Jesus is to you based on nothing that you have done to Him. Purely what He has done for you. Amen? Proverbs 18:24 says, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Look at this. A man of many companions, right, may come to ruin, but there is a friend who's closer than a brother. What does a brother do? A brother is born for adversity. A brother or a sister, they'll tell you what they think of you. A man of many companions will fall to ruin, but there is a friend who's closer than a brother. Jesus is the fulfillment of the perfect friend. Where is Jesus? He is up and to the right. He is sacrificial in His love, in His service, and He will tell you the truth. He will reveal to your heart, this is who you are. What is good, yes, and what is bad. Where you need to pursue Him, how you need to become more like Him. Our greatest friend is Jesus. So let me ask you, is He your greatest friend? He is pursuing you. Like God showed up in the fiery bush. It was not consumed, but he put himself in the path of Moses. Jesus puts himself in your path so you can look and see. And the invitation is, come on, and I will talk to you face to face as a friend.